State Champs Indiana Extra Point is presented by Lawrence Technological University. Lawrence Tech wants you to recruit yourself. Just go to LTUathletics.com and click on the Recruit Yourself link. Academic and athletic scholarships are available in over 24 varsity sports, including football. It is the postseason edition. We have 190 football teams that are still playing across the state of Indiana. Once we get to next week, that number is down to 96. My name is Greg Rakestraw, joined as always by Bob Stambazze. Hello, my friend. How are you?
Well, I'm dry right now. I'm not sure if I can get the arc done by 4 o'clock this afternoon, but we're in a building stage right here. But what a great weekend, Greg, of high school athletics. And I mean, all over the great state of Indiana.
And obviously, it's more than just football. We are in postseason crunch time in terms of the soccer state finals coming up this week. Volleyball is in the semi-state round. Cross country has their state finals this weekend. So, yes, I know that you were doing volleyball on the radio. Yes, my friend Baz does volleyball on the radio for the station he is representing on his shirt today in 105.9 The Bash. But on Friday night, you were doing high school football. Who'd you have on Friday?
I was, and we were at Manchester for the first time this year, Manchester High School in North Manchester, Indiana, where the Bremen Lions came down. And I got to tell you, Greg, for a team coming in 6-3, what an impressive football team. Their line, they got a couple D1 kids. They're getting looked at. They're big, strong, very methodical on what they want to do. You watch one play, it's the old USC. Student body left, student body right. I mean, they're bringing the student body. And but they did a nice job. They get out early. But Manchester in the second half, I was so proud of these young men because they're down. They could have walked away. But they get about 47 rushing yards in the second half. And they end up losing the game 28-13. But this team that Coach Alec Brandewie has done a great job. Greg, they lost their top tackler. You ready for this? This is one of the most unique injuries you're going to hear. He was stretching out and snapped the hamstring before the game. Their leading tackler, Dominic Lincoln. So he did not even get to play. So that was an end because he's their safety. They could go right over the top, and they did. And so it kind of messed up the rotation, but couldn't be prouder of the effort that Manchester put out this weekend. I know you had a great game, but that was really a lot of fun.
You thought that game would be competitive. And again, for those who know the Bremen story, it's one of the great football small towns in northern Indiana. They are the smallest team in the Northern Indiana. That conference has gone to divisions, kind of large and small for football, but Bremen plays up. And we talk about this a lot with parochial schools, with like a Lures or a Mater Dei that are a 2A school in enrollment, but play a 4A, 5A, or in some cases a 6A schedule. Bremen kind of plays a 3A, 4A schedule. And so they get the benefit of playing really good competition. And again, they do what they do. There may not be much innovation, but they go about saying, all right, we're going to get the fundamentals right. And more often than not, that's going to get us to win, especially in postseason time. As Baz alluded to, I was fortunate enough to have what a lot of folks thought was the game in the state on Friday night. And that was 3A number 1 West Lafayette playing at 3A number 3 RBuff. And this game turned on a dime right before halftime. West Lafayette was leading 14-3. They had taken advantage of a couple of RBuff turnovers and scored on a pair of short fields. They tried a squib kick to avoid RBuff having a good return. RBuff then got the football, at about, I think, their own 37-yard line. 2 plays, 63 yards, scored before the half to make it 14-10. And seemingly that momentum carried over all the way throughout half number 2. Nolan Buckman, the starting quarterback, a junior for RBuff, over 250 yards passing. West Lafayette, a team that is always stout defensively. They had 5 different players, including Mo Amanade, who I think is going to head to Purdue. He's going to go to Arkansas State, seemingly kind of his last and final 2. A young man that was kind of a part-time high school wrestler the last couple of years, and in what is his second sport, was the state runner-up at 285 in the heavyweight classification along the offensive line. But it was RBuff that got the job done. And again, it comes down to the schedule that RBuff played. Yeah. Their 2 losses, number 1 Roncalli in 4A, number 1 Cathedral in 5A. First 2 games of the season, RBuff beat Chittard for the first time in 8 years, and then beat New Pal in week number 2 as well. Coach Geske, who is relatively new to coaching Indiana high school football. It's originally from Oregon. It's his second year at RBuff High School. They have a good football team. A lot of folks will say whoever wins that game is the favorite to win the state championship, and rightfully so, and especially knowing that they are in the northern half of the bracket, and a lot of the other really good teams in Class 3A are in the southern half of the bracket. Gibson Southern with their star quarterback Brady Allen that's bound for Purdue University as well. Danville, Lawrenceburg, they all go south in terms of the bracket. But RBuff impressed me. These were two good football teams. And West Lafayette, the last 3 years, their losses are to Chittard in the sectional final, Garin Catholic in the sectional opener, and then RBuff in the sectional opener. And they are hoping Chittard's already going to be in 4A. They're hoping that RBuff, as well as Garin, somehow get sent to the southern half of the bracket next year so they don't have to worry about them.
Yeah, get a realigned. I will say this. They are in the northern part, but there are some really good northern schools. I'm going to tell you, you've heard me talk about this team all year, Tippy Valley. And this is a ball team that people say they don't play that great a schedule, going back to something you and I both agree upon, is the fact that you play an up schedule, you're going to play better football. We just agree with that. Valley plays 1 through 3A because of their conference. That's fine. Norwell, another team who does play up in that Northeast 8 conference. They also advance. So I'm telling you, there's a couple good. Then you think of Hanover Central, clear up north. So there are some good teams up here, but not quite to the level that you're talking about with RBuff.
All right, let's talk about two other games that got my attention kind of across the state. First, 4A. Congratulations to Northview. And again, so often when we have these teams that meet with really good records, both that are ranked, we're simply going to default to who played the tougher schedule. So when Northview drew undefeated Jasper at 9-0, Northview with one loss on the season, Northview beat both Terre Haute South and Terre Haute North, but lost to 3A Owen Valley in the Western Indiana Conference. We said, hey, Northview's had a nice year, but the Western Indiana Conference is not the Southern Athletic Conference, of which Jasper swept, beating the likes of Wrights, Memorial, Castle, Mater Dei during the course of the season. Well, Northview proceeds to go on the road to Jasper and win that game 28-14. That is one of the biggest program wins in history. And regardless of what happens for Northview the rest of the way, I think they can still be playing at least for a couple of 3 weeks, given kind of who's in their sectional and how the path lays out for them. They can say that in one season, they beat Terre Haute North, they beat Terre Haute South, and they beat Jasper. And believe me, that is nothing that the kids from Brazil, have ever been to say before. The other game that I want to point out from my neck of the woods, which was the reversal of a game that was played not that long ago, Heritage Christian and Atcina. In the regular season, Heritage Christian was a 6-point winner against Ott Hurley and Atcina. Atcina reversed that in victory, and much like Jasper, Heritage Christian went 9-0 during the regular season, but ends their season at 9-1 as they lose on the opening week of the tournament. We didn't lose many ranked teams in 1A through 4A, and the handful of those that played in 5A, Cathedral, smoked Terre Haute North as we expected they would by a score of 56-0. Zionsville was not exactly challenged by McCutcheon in week number 1, and it was just ironic that the two teams that played in the 5A state championship game last year both were in sectionals. They had to play the opening night, and both took care of business on Friday night. But again, we do have some ranked teams that have gone home, and that group includes West Lafayette, Jasper, and Heritage Christian, 3 teams that went 9-0 and saw their season end on October the 22nd. Baz, any other scores of note that caught your attention?
Yeah, big one up at, we talked a little bit about it last week with Leo and East Snowball, the rematch, where this was a struggle during the season. And East Snowball actually led the entire game against Leo until the final 4.9 seconds. And Leo punched it in. They come away victorious to keep their record unblemished. Now, as I look at the bracket, seriously, not much to challenge Leo in the getting to the semi-state. And then as I look up, I look at New Prairie and probably Hobart. And the Brickies, they can play, as you well know. So I think that Leo right now has a good shot, Greg, coming up and getting to to be quite frank, getting down the state finals. And then I got to just jumping ahead a little bit over here in 2A. This thing is a slobber knocker of a schedule. I'm just here to tell you, there's 10-0s sitting there, 9-0 sitting there, 9-1 sitting there. And so each side, they have a big one coming up. Now, the reason I want to jump with each side first, Greg, is because last year, this is the team that caused Lures a lot of headaches. Go get to advance to play Pioneers. So Lures sitting here just opposite East Side in the other bracket. So if East Side wins over Central Noble, oh, by the way, Central Noble playing awfully good. The Cougars are 8-2. And then you have Lures taking on Prairie Heights. That should be a Lures win. That sets up the matchup next week. And I'm like you, kind of looking ahead here because of records and how things went. Lures and East Side again in that match. It's going to be a dandy. That's all I can say. Then on the backside, you look at Eastbrook 9-0, taking on Lapel 8-2, team you're familiar with a little farther south, and Tipton sitting there 9-1. So I'm looking at really Eastbrook and Tipton going. They'll be 10-0 and 10-1 going into that bat boy. And then, but all the power to me as I look at this thing is in the south, but in the south part of this 2A bracket. But a team we're all familiar with is playing really good is Pioneer. This is a 1A team playing up in 2A, and they look like to me they should get through that top bracket and get to the 2A semi-state.
Let's go to the big boys briefly. In 6A, there are not a lot of great matchups the first week, and there's also there's 30 teams in 6A this year. The IHSA elected not to bump anybody up a classification in terms of enrollment. They will reclassify everybody, kind of let the things settle down after the pandemic. And so with that, we're a little heavy in 5A. We're a little light in 6A. So there are a couple of teams. Columbus North, for example, they're going to sit for 2 weeks. They will wait the winner of Center Grove and Franklin Central. Another sectional like that is in your neck of the woods. The two 6A Summit Athletic Conference schools, Homestead and Carroll, meet each other. Give me a breakdown of that game.
Well, Homestead and Carroll. I mean, it's a rematch. It's Carroll has played very well this year, and they've got things together. Set 8-1, and Homestead coming in there 6-3. They just don't like each other. To be quite honest with you, up there in Fort Wayne, and you talk to the kids. I'm very blessed to get to talk to them on the field, and they don't talk highly of each other's programs. So they both, I tell you, Greg, when this draw was made, they were both smiling. The kids were. Now, I don't know if the coaches were, but the kids were smiling. We get to go at them early. So I look at Carroll. I think Carroll gets them, and then advancing on to take on Warsaw. But if anybody in that 6A is going to be scared in North Park, you got to look at a team I've heard you talk about the whole time, Westfield, and then the upper northwest corner with Maryville playing awfully good, setting at 9-0. That's what I'm kind of looking at to see as I think you do too, to see Westfield and Maryville in that semi-state final.
The draw is set up, and just the geography of having the top 4 teams in 6A make the semi-state, and that would be Carmel and Center Grove in the south, and Westfield and Maryville in the north. If it's anybody else other than that foursome of teams, frankly, we would be surprised, given kind of how the season has played out. Hamilton Southeastern and Brownsburg are probably saying, hey, wait a minute. And HSE would see Westfield in the sectional final. They got to get past Fishers first. Brownsburg has to get by Carmel in a sectional championship game. Then Ben Davis would be awaiting for them. But again, those are the two teams that can spoil kind of that Final Four in terms of 6A. Games to catch your attention statewide for Baz. I'll talk about what we're going to have this week. Mater Dei and Linton Stockton. Linton Stockton is 10-0. Brian Oliver, they broke away from a conference. They play an independent schedule to try to prepare them for games like this. Again, Mater Dei made it through the Southern Indiana Athletic Conference at 7-2 and won their opening game of the tournament. Coach Gable's team is now 8-2, and if they're 8-2, Mike knows what he's doing. It tells me Mater Dei is a really good team. That'll be a fantastic game in Linton coming up on Friday night. I know in your neck of the woods, Monroe Central out South Adams. Again, South Adams is 8-2, but again, Monroe Central is thought to be the favorite in that game, but that is certainly a game that catches your attention in 1A. Bob, who you got on Friday night?
Well, Friday night, we will be at Northfield as they host Triton. Just an opportunity for us to see a local team play again, to be quite honest with you. To the south of us, Southwood is taking on Adams Central as they go over to Adams Central. But this should be an interesting matchup at Northfield. We kind of think Northfield gets through and takes on Adams Central in a championship game. And I'm excited to see Adams Central here in a couple weeks, Greg. They're a machine, as you well know.
Again, Adams Central and Monroe Central seem to be on a collision course in terms of the northern half of the 1A bracket. My game this week is Warren Central at Lawrence Central. Again, like I said, there wasn't a lot of great draw in terms of the opening round for the 6A schools in the Indianapolis area. Warren has not played since losing to Carmel on October the 8th. They did not find an opponent in week number 9. They had the bye. So just how does Mike Kirshner's team respond to not playing for 21 days? And Lawrence Central, young team under head coach Will Patterson, did not win a game last year. They're 3-6. They hung with Carmel. It was a 14-0 game against the Greyhounds 2 weeks ago on October the 15th. That defense catches your attention. So Warren Central, Lawrence Central is the game I'll have on ISC, my Indy TV, and the IHSAA Champions Network coming up on Friday night. Anything else for the good of the cause, my friend?
I hope everybody gets out there and support these kids. They're deserving of our backing, and it's just a great time to be at a high school event.
That's our show this week. I want to thank our sponsor, Lawrence Technological University. Recruit yourself at LTUathletics.com. For Bob Stambazze and Kevin behind the scenes, my name is Greg Rakestraw. Thanks for watching State Champs Indiana Extra Point.